Well, schools in Nigeria have reopened after the yuletide holidays despite the ravaging second wave of COVID-19. We're now cross live to Arise correspondent Chinemerem Joseph, who is monitoring schools in Abuja. Chinemerem, what's the update? What's it been like today that schools are reopening?
Well, good afternoon, Indy and Ekene. As I speak to you, we are at a government secondary school in Wuse area in Abuja. And this is actually the senior arm of the secondary school, and we've graciously been giving the opportunity to do this from live from a classroom where I have students of the senior class sitting, watching what we're doing. But from the videos, they are, of course, trying to observe the social distancing thing and also have their face masks glued to their faces, though some say it's quite uncomfortable, but they have been wrapped up in the face masks since they came to school in the morning. So we hear that some schools I visited earlier told me that they weren't able to do the assembly, which they do every morning, morning ritual, to avoid social gathering where you have a large number of people coming together. But we hear that school has started in earnest, even though some are still trying to put their ass together and then keep their environment clean to ensure that they get down to business in no time.
Oh, thank you, Chinemerem, for that. Glued to
Indeed.
their faces is right.
Yep.
So let's go from Abuja, if you don't mind hanging in there, to Lagos, where schools are about observing their lunch break. So let's cross live to our Rise senior correspondent, Tokunboh Oyetunji, who is monitoring schools in Lagos. Tokunboh, give us the update from where you are.
Okay, thank you very much for joining us here. We're in Maryland. We're at the St. Agnes Nursery and Primary School. It's a public elementary school owned by the state government here in Lagos. We showed you much earlier in the day the situation at some of the private schools. Here we're at a public school to actually show you what exactly is going on the first day of resumption after the yuletide celebration. That's the entrance gate as I speak with you. If you look closely there is a bucket of water and the things to go with it. Hand sanitizer is there, liquid hand washing soap is there for anybody who is coming into the premises. And away from that place, not too far away from where I'm standing there is another hand washing point here to ensure that everybody that comes in here gets their hands properly sanitized. That's what we see here at this nursery and primary school. Just right in front of the block where I'm standing are classrooms hosting the junior the nursery school pupils. If my cameraman can just pan in there, you can see that the pupils have come in and have settled into their classes, and academic activities have resumed. And some of them we interacted with much earlier actually told us how good it is for them to be back in school after such a long stay at home. And they are quite aware of the need for them to actually take personal safety precautions in order not to get infected, or if any one of them has it, not to spread it across to their colleagues. And even the members of staff here are equally focusing on the need for the children and the pupils to be aware of the need for personal safety and precautions to ensure that COVID-19 does not spread among them here. Earlier, we saw officials of the Lagos state government actually moving around to see how compliant some of the public schools are being, and some of them that we have spoken to. If I have the opportunity to speak to one of them who are actually interacted with much earlier, I will be speaking with them. But their verdict so far is that they have been satisfied with the compliance, on the first day of resumption of schools. Ekene.
Thank you, Tokunboh.
All right, Tokunboh, we're going to have to keep you on pause. You and Chinemerem, I'm sure, Chinemerem, you are listening as well. We'll get back to you immediately after this break, so hang it there. You're still watching News. We'll be back in a bit with more. Don't go away.
Okay, welcome back. We are still watching Newsday, and we're still on the first day of the school's resumption with our correspondents Chinemerem Joseph and Tokunboh Oyetunji in Lagos and Chinemerem in Abuja. Chinemerem, over to you. And I was just having a discussion with Indy that What happens where there are gaps in the school's compliance, depending if it's down to funding or lack of funding to make up those gaps? Is there any indication that the state government will step in and help ameliorate for those deficiencies?
You mean in terms of what they are using
compliance,
to
yes, because I made an observation.
That the protocol is observed?
Yes, because I made an observation that I didn't see any signs of running water. There was a basin, but no running water, which means that you're not necessarily going to be able to wash your hands as thoroughly as you need to.
Not at all. It's because we're actually inside the classroom. When I came in from the gate, I saw a number of points where students can wash their hands with the hand wash there. It's because we're in the class. So when I came in, I observed that, and even with the chat I had with the principal, she outlined a number of things they've been able to do. In fact, I have the VP Academics, the Vice Principal Academics, Mrs. Chika Okpala, with me to actually take us on some of these issues and some questions that have come up, because we're wondering if you have so many students come into an environment like this, how do you enforce and ensure that they keep wearing their face mask even when you are not there, when they're alone in the classroom? And then how do you also ensure that they observe physical distancing, knowing that students always like to hold their hands, like to hug one another? So maybe Mrs. Chika would be letting us into some of those questions. How do you really ensure that the students are safe and we can curtail the spread of this virus?
Thank you very much. You can see from coming in from the gate, you can see a number of things that we have put in place. The first thing you do when they come in, both teachers and students will do temperature check. After that, as they enter, you see points where they wash their hands before they enter, and sanitizers that they will use. So when they enter the school, in the classroom, we arrange their seats in such a way that you have like a meter to another person, so that they will have enough space, because this virus is a dangerous one. Then you can see all of them are putting on their face masks, and during break, when they will go to buy things to eat, all these things they are selling, we made sure that we checked all of them and make sure that they are the hygiene is okay. Then when they are buying, there are teachers that will stand there, to see that they observe the social distance. And then you can see also that when they move around, teachers are monitoring them. And there are some special people like the senior masters and the men that we put in places that monitor them as they move around to do their things.
Mrs. Chika, I'm wondering, are there special talks that you've had with the students, whether with you or their personal class teachers, having, serious talks with them on what to do, how to avoid it and all that?
We've had a lot of talks with them, even now. We've had a lot of talks with them, even now. As principal told you, principal is about to have talks with them right now. So immediately after their lesson now, they'll go to the assembly hall, and then they'll have the talks. And this assembly we are going to have with them is class by class, so that the social distance will be maintained. We don't compromise on anything.
Are there areas where you want support, or the school authority or the FCT authorities, probably the education arm, has been able to provide all you really need to ensure that you have what it takes to limit or reduce the spread of this virus?
In short, so far as this COVID-19 is concerned, the FCT administration have done a lot of things for schools. Like they have provided all these face masks for each student, and they've given sanitizers, two bottles to each student. So they've really tried.
Thank you very much. Mrs. Chika Okpala, the VP Academics in this government senior secondary school in Wuse.
All right,
well,
Chinemerem,
it looks like
we will keep you on post.
Like we
good
have
work you're doing. We'll get back to you when we need to. But let's go back to Tokunboh. Tokunboh, actually, the issue Ekene raised was actually in your area. She saw a basin, and she felt that there should be running water. So what arrangements have been made, if you know, about having running water instead of having a basin?
Well, Ndi, thank you very much for joining us again. It was part of the issues that we raised much earlier in a report that we did preparatory to this day. And some will tell you that it is better for you to have water in some buckets than having nothing. You know, you saw one of those taps that we opened the last time, and it was so very dry. So some will argue that, you know, it depends on the way you look at the cup, half full or half empty. The most important thing is that water is running from somewhere. Yeah. But for us to get a better perspective on all those issues, because another issue that has actually been raised, if you all agree with me, is the fact that in a stage where we consider as the epic center, Lagos, where we have been recording multiple of hundreds of infections of COVID-19 on a daily basis, especially since the start of the second wave, so to say, is it very appropriate for the children to be allowed to go back to school? That is a very big issue that everybody has been raising. But officials have said, okay, things are in place to actually ensure that the schools don't become the super spreader point as we have it. So I have an official with me who is the chairman in Lagos State of the Universal Basic Education, is Mr. Wahab Alawiyeking. He will be explaining things to us, you know, for us to have a better perspective of from the government angle on why they have decided that these children must come back to school despite the high figures that we're recording daily of COVID-19 infection. Mr. Lawi, thank you very much for joining us on this this live telecast on Arise News.
Good afternoon.
Like you heard me discuss with colleagues, what is the logic behind having our children go back to school at this point when we are recording multiple of hundreds of cases of COVID-19 in Lagos on a daily basis?
Thank you very much. We cannot continue to close our school, and we cannot close school in perpetuity. Before we make that decision, we have consulted widely. One of the things we did is to invite officials from the Ministry of Health, and we engaged them. One of the questions we asked them is that is there any correlation between school resumption and the increase in the numbers of infection we are witnessing lately? And they have not been able to convince us, to tell us that is the reason. Schools were closed during the first wave, during the first wave. And when the school resumed, is there any spike? Do we notice any spike in the rise of, the infection? So we were unable to see that. There is no positive correlation between that and the spike we are witnessing now. What we can say safely is that this spike, you know, was as a result of the social activity that happened during the holiday period. People traveled. We saw so many, you know, social engagement that happened during those periods, and that we believe that is the cause of the increase in the second wave.
But before you go further, sir, some will tell you that some will argue equally that these children that are coming in here today, they at one point will have interacted with those who have been involved in those social activities that you mentioned as a avenue where we're recording more cases. So how do we reconcile the fact that a child that is coming from an uncle, a daddy, a mother who has interacted socially is coming to school, and are we sure that the child is not carrying the virus to spread around?
Thank you very much. According to the expert, this is the peak period, and the school is resuming at this particular period. Like I have said, we have not witnessed, based on evidence we've gathered, that the spike was as a result of school resumption during the last period. Sure. So we cannot safely say that is the reason why it is happening now. School is a structured place, and you must follow some safety regulation. And school is one of the places you can enforce and ensure that all the safety protocols we are talking about are put in place.
And some of those safety protocols that you're talking about now in a structured place like this, are we seeing them based on what you have been, the monitoring exercise that you've been carrying about all the...
Yes, I've been to about 20 schools this morning. Aside from that, all the board members has been, you know, mandated to visit one school or the other. Aside from that, all the education sector who had the grassroots managers of all the schools have also been deployed to all the schools. Our Becker officers, basic education quality assurance officers, are all in the field. Our senior directors are also in the field. Ministry of Education is going around. Office of Education Quality Assurance is also going around to monitor what is happening. We cannot continue to close our school in perpetuity. We must start somewhere.
The question some are equally asking. Like,
all right, Tokunboh. Tokunboh.
Is that our proper infrastructure actually?
Yeah, Tokunboh, let's keep you and the chairman on hold. You're doing a great work. We want to get back to Chinemerem, who was bringing us up to speed on a particular matter. Chinemerem, we're back to you. I know you were up saying something before we had to keep you on pause. Would you like to continue from where you stopped?
Okay, well, I was trying to look at the resumption of activities in school, really, if any, although we know that some places have started taking lectures. But we know that as to resumption today, the number of students who turned out were not the usual crowd that you get when pupils resume school. But we hear it's because school is just starting. So before the week runs out, we know that those who are unwilling to resume, because we hear that some parents are actually holding back their wards at home to be sure that they don't come out and get exposed to the virus. So I'm sure they would be probably coming, visiting the schools where their wards go to be sure that the protocols are really adhered to, and then I'm sure we'll see them releasing their wards to come out and go to school.
Okay, Chinemerem, Tokunboh spoke of monitoring. Whilst you've been there, have you seen any elements of monitoring going on, whether as a school exercise or from the state?
Well, I haven't run into any of the group that is monitoring, but I'm aware that there's a team that has been set up to go around schools and ensure that these protocols are really observed. Hopefully, maybe in a bit, we'll get in touch with them and be part of their team so that we can talk to them and know if they have any report of any school that has gone against the protocols that has been laid down to curtail the spread of the virus.
Well, all right. Could you just discuss one of the students there? Let's get their opinion. Let's know how they're feeling. Let's just get to understand how it's been for them.
Okay, so I could take up the lady just by my side here. What's your name?
Hassana M. Zakaria.
Hassana. Okay, so we are aware that when you got back from school during your first term, you came and met the new norm of wearing a face mask and then washing your hands, either with water, running water, or with the sanitizer, and then observing social distancing. So how has it been? Because you're back to school now with the second term, and it's still the same style. Are you comfortable with it? Are you comfortable, or what do you think? Is it good, or you think you guys are managing?
Yes, we are managing.
Maybe I should ask you how you feel wearing the face mask from morning till you leave school. Is it comfortable? Are there times you want to take it off so that you could take fresh air?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay. But you're trying to keep safe because you know what the virus is.
Yes, ma'am.
Yeah, you know people are dying, so you have to stay safe.
Yes, ma'am.
Well, Hassana appears not to be too vocal, or probably I took her unawares.
Yeah,
but,
you probably did.
Or maybe I get another vocal student in the class.
Before you do that, we'll get back to you. Before you get to another one, we'll just be back in a bit. Stay with us.
Okay, you're watching Newsday, and we're still on our live transmission assessment of the first day of the reopening of schools, both in Abuja and in Lagos. So we're going back to Chinemerem, who we were speaking to earlier. I think she was in the process of hijacking another student to find out how they are responding to this to this situation. So Chinemerem, have you managed to locate yourself an outspoken student?
Yeah, Ekene. So I have Bilal Ibrahim here with me, and so how do you feel about the new norm? It's not really new because we know that when you resumed for your first term, after staying about 7 months at home, you got back to school and you had to wear a face mask or a face shield, wash your hands as often as possible, and probably stay away from your friends. So how are you coping with that? What's it looking like now?
Well, we are all finding it difficult in this kind of time. But by the grace of God, we hope that with everything going on, we'll try and see it through.
Okay, so what really do you know about the virus? And I'm trying to find out how necessary or how important do you think you're supposed to stay safe? So what really do you know about the virus?
Well, we all know that it's easily communicable by either by air, by water, whatever, but all we know that we should maintain our distance, putting on our face masks and rubbing our hand sanitizers.
All right, thank you so much, Bilal Ibrahim, a student of the senior government secondary school here in Wuse. Well, that'll be all for now. It's back to you, Ndi and Ekene.
Thank you so much, Chinemerem. Keep on doing the good job. We'll take you to Tokunboh, Oyetunji, our correspondent here in Lagos. Tokunboh, I know you were interviewing the chairman, Ubeb. Are you still with him, Tokunboh?
Right with you.
Yeah, Tokunboh, okay. Looks like you're, oh, he's still there. So you want to continue with your interview? Go ahead.
That's right. If you give me some more minutes, I'll take him up on some other issues, that we're talking about earlier. Mr. Lawi, thank you very much for still remaining with us. We're talking about preparing for this day, and part of a very significant aspect of that is putting critical infrastructures in place. We came into these facilities, and what we saw are buckets of water instead of wash and basin. How does that reflect on our preparation to this day?
Well, like I told you, we have running water in almost of our schools. And in order for you to improvise for the situation we find ourselves, we must put the bucket here so that as they come in, they must continue to wash their hands. The tap is here. We are currently working on the wash and basin. But for school resumption, for us to do what is necessary for us to do, we must put this bucket here for us to do what we are doing now. Like I've told you, in Lagos, we are very much concerned about stakeholders' engagement. The decision to open school was not made in isolation. All the critical stakeholders were carried along, and we all agree that it is important for us to open at this particular period.
I've seen that going through some of these classes here, the number of the pupils, the students in the classes have been reduced by half. And that is to give the pupils some kind of opportunity to social distance so that they don't crowd each other when they're in class. What are those other measures that the Lagos government has put in place to ensure that the schools are not crowded?
Well, we all know what the safety protocol entails. You understand, provision of a hand-washing area, soap, sanitizers, face masks. These are the things the state government has provided for every school in the state. That is one of the critical things you need to do to show that this government is anticipatory and proactive. Before now, we have divided the class into two. We have what we call the achieve and the shine. And the idea behind that is for us to come to school 2.5 days a week. Good. You understand? That is what we have done before now. Before the second wave, we have done that in Lagos State, just to show you that we are very much concerned about the safety, and the well-being of our people.
The virtual learning alternative, is it very strong? Is it available to schools like this?
Yes, we are one of the first states that came about the learning options alternative, which is the television program we have introduced. Before now, we have been using the radio program, and we saw that it is necessary for us to strengthen that. That is why we have introduced the television program. We felt and we believe that television is accessible to many of our people, and that is why we have key into that one. We have the upper classes, we have the lower classes, and we have special one for the special people to show that the learning laws that has existed must be gapped. That is what the state government is doing.
Thank you very much, Mr. Lawi, for talking to us, the chairman of the Lagos State University of Basic Education. He's been talking to us on the process that they've been put in place to ensure that resumption of schools after the yuletide holiday is smooth and does not lead to spreading of the deadly virus COVID-19 in these schools. I have some of the students with me actually, but I'm told I have to get back to the studio with you, Ndi and Ekene, for the continuation of this program.
All right, thank you so much, Tokunboh. Keep on doing the great work that you're doing.